Oh,
Ahoy, hoy, Phil Dave.
well, a good afternoon to you as well,
Oh, you're
Russell.
determined not to play along. It drives me bloody mad every time you don't.
Ahoy, hoy, Russ Kane. What
Thank
can
you
I tell
very
you?
much. I asked for so little. Very, very quickly, before we get on to our fantastic guest.
Well, hang on a second. I've got an idea. Right.
What?
Chantal, would you ever say ahoy, hoy to someone to greet someone?
No.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. Okay. So we're.
I never liked Chantal. I never liked her.
Chantal, it's so exciting to see. It's so exciting to see you so early.
I don't care if she's grown up our fringe. I don't care. If she's going to just be critical, then we're going to have a problem on our hands. And that's all there is to it. I invited Chantal Ricard's OBE because I wanted her to chat. Why are you shaking your head? If I had that, man.
Because she'd rather it was a damehood.
I'd have it tattooed on my forehead.
Old news.
I want it there. Old news to you. Great news to me. I only know a couple of people with OBEs. And anyway, so a special guest. I have to say that when I'm going to crack straight on because I want to talk about Jussie Smollett, which is one of the reasons I wanted you on, Chantal. Yeah, I know. I got lots to say about it because I watched 5 hours of that courtroom. Now, here's the thing. When I put on social media that our special guest was coming on, and we've never met before, and I just saw some.
Oh, this is Chantal Ricard. She's very high up.
That's why you're faint, because you're rude all the time. That's why you nearly fainted yesterday, because you were rude. No. You're just rude.
What?
You're just rude all the time. Just rude to everybody. You can be charming like Chantal, or indeed myself. So here's the thing.
When a new definition to the word charm we weren't previously aware of. But anyway,
just please, I'm trying to pretend to our special guest is a proper show. So watched all over the world, which it is. Right. Here's the thing. When I put on social media the special guest was coming on, and we've never met. I just saw some tweets on Twitter. And I thought that is a subject we need to discuss. It's taken a while to sort out. Right. I've never had such a feedback. Oh my God. Wow. Oh my God. Everyone went like nuts. Okay. Everyone went crazy because I have to. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I had a huge crush. I did, not as much as I do on Phil, but nonetheless, it is only Susan Penhaligon.
Oh my goodness me!
Hey.
Now, Susan, we're going to ask a really pedantic favour of you. Would it be at all possible you could move ever so slightly over to your left, just because otherwise you get blocked by the Ukrainian harp? That's all.
Or you could move. You could take off the Ukrainian harp.
Look at that. Oh no, your other left. Your other left. That's the one. Splendid. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Now, Susan, thank you so much for joining us. I have to say, my internet nearly bust when I said, "Here you are." Then you were very sweet. You said, I put a picture up on Twitter and, this morning. You went, "Oh, is that me?" And I went, "Definitely is you." You haven't seen the one on Facebook, which is my favourite. Now, we're not here to talk about all that, although we might drift into it. You did some tweets a few weeks ago, and I thought they were very poignant and very, very, very spot on. And now, you wouldn't know, Susan. Chantal, who's a dear friend, and she's on the show every Friday, and she is ex-CEO of BAFTA in LA. So this is why I wanted Chantal on earlier than she normally does. There we go.
Nice to meet you.
What was the nature of your tweets, Susan?
Which one?
The one about age discrimination, I think, was really what it was, and why aren't there parts, and that which I thought was really, really on point.
Well, it's yeah, I think I was talking about looking older, wasn't I? I think I remember it was something about it's quite tricky for actresses who looked young, and I prefer actresses to actors, by the way. But it's
Susan, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we obviously really want to hear what you're saying, and unfortunately it sounds very, very quiet. So I'm wondering whether or not could you remove maybe the headphones and the earpiece and see if we can just speak to you using the built-in system. Is that okay? There you go.
Like that.
Oh, that's so much better. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. We just wanted to hear what you had to say. That was all.
Okay, yes. That tweet, I think I was saying that it's very tricky for actresses who were thought to be pretty or glamorous when they were young. As you get older, I was really talking about a professional life. I think that's what I was saying. I haven't got that tweet in front of me, so I can't remember quite what I said. But I think it's difficult because if your identity is locked up in your looks, I mean, it is for a lot of women anyway. You don't have to be an actress to feel that, but it's very, very important in the business that we have an expression which is you get a part if the face fits, you know. I mean, it's a tough old business, and as you get older, it's almost as if you have to rediscover your identity. I think that's what I was saying, wasn't it?
Pretty much. And of course, the other thing is that always drives me mad is men. I don't know. Take George Clooney, take Johnny Depp, take any of the leading men. They get older and they just look. Hey, he looks more rugged. You know, he looks more attractive. Oh, he's a silver fox and all this nonsense. And women just get kicked to the curb, it seems. And I find that very, very unfair. This obsession with age. And it isn't.
Yes. 'Twas ever thus, by the way. I mean, nothing has changed, really.
I'm sure it is.
You know, and what you have to do if you want a long career, and I've been working for 50 years now. So if you
which
want
we say impossible, obviously, because that's the correct response.
How kind. So you know, you have to try and move into character. I've been very lucky in the theatre because age doesn't matter quite so much, and there's some great character parts for women in the theatre. It's on telly and film, isn't it? That's where
it is.
Actresses struggle, and I mean in the States you've got people like, I can't think of one person now. You know.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep is the one that. Thank you. But you have to have work done. I mean, you can't be in Hollywood and not have some sort of, not a complete facelift and Botox, but you have to, because that's the look of, and it's become a kind of generic look for the older woman, that they have no wrinkles. And
yes,
I'm not knocking it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not actually knocking it, because if you're in that business.
But I'm knocking it. It's not real, Susan.
You are knocking it.
No, I'm knocking it because you know, sometimes I'm watching TV and I thought, oh my God, her face actually moves. And I realized the rarity of that. I'm sorry to say that, but it's a nonsense. It's not real. You know, it looks, well, you know, it just looks like someone who's had work done, and that's all there is to it. You know, you don't look 25.
Yes, I think people are becoming much more aware of it. You know, the glossy magazine look, isn't it? We've all got to look like we've been touched up for a photograph in a magazine or something.
Now, here's an important memory. I sold Susan and Judi Dench a pair of shoes at LW2 London Weekend Television during the rehearsal of A Fine Romance.
Oh.
You only get that sort of thing on men's radio stations. You will not get
Only apologise, seriously. Here you are talking about a serious subject, and someone's reminiscing about selling you a pair of shoes. I'm so sorry.
It is because people remember these things. That's what people.
I think I remember that. That's sort of, yes, I kind of remember that.
I'm going to only touch on it briefly. Then I'm going to get back to the main thing, but it's something that I think I've wanted to ask you for 40 years. Did you, at the time of, I know it's very ancient history, I'm not dragging it up, did you have any notion as a young actress the impact that you were having? Because when that came out, it was like a bombshell when that show came out.
What, Bouquet?
Everyone went.
Yes, no idea whatsoever. I mean, you know, drama school in the late 60s, they didn't prepare you for that. We were all trained to go to the Royal Shakespeare Company in the National Theatre. You know, I mean, the thought of doing a commercial in those days was very, you know, the wrong thing to do.
Was it frowned upon?
Yes, you didn't do a commercial. No, you were trained to do the classics and Shakespeare, and you know. And I suppose I still kind of, my whole life I've aspired to that. Actually, failed miserably. no, I had no idea whatsoever. I was 26,
Yeah.
and I remember walking into Harrods. Why I was in Harrods, I don't know. I didn't have a lot of,
Why not, indeed, I say.
it's strange that it happened. And I remember heads turning. I
Yeah.
remember walking down probably to the lingerie department, and heads turned, and I thought my skirt was tucked up in my underpants. That's absolutely true. That is true. I had no idea.
When you're talking about this notion of the pressure on women in the acting world, you are arguably in sort of quite I wouldn't say unique position, but certainly a different position, in so much as that obviously your other half is also in the acting world.
No,
And
which other half is? No, I don't have another half.
you don't have another half.
No. Am I
Little
going to go?
research would have gone a long way, Philip. That's what I have to say. A little
In
research,
that
the
case,
tiniest bit of research.
I'm so sorry about that.
in that
but
case, we'll
no,
use take two. Don't worry about
Take
it. It's
two.
fine.
Phil, you had it.
On the edit,
Never
please,
been.
Thank
with
God
that
this
one.
isn't. Thank God it's not live.
Thank God it's not
Going
live.
out
It'd be
around the world.
terrible. Wouldn't you imagine? Seriously.
Anyway, Phil,
No,
my old chum,
it's-
you had a question.
Oh,
never
in that
been
no, my question's now totally irrelevant. But anyway, don't worry about it. Luckily, I'm not a professional.
No, only one of the top producers in the country.
It's okay. It's okay. You're forgiven because I've never been in the public domain. But are you talking about Duncan Preston?
Yes.
No, we haven't been together for nearly 10 years. So
Oh, right. Well, that's
public. I'm going public. Here we go. We're not together.
how completely ghastly of me. I'm so sorry. Right, but anyway,
That's all right. Don't worry.
at the same
worry,
time,
it's-
let's go with when you were with Duncan Preston. Was
Yeah.
there ever a moment where it sort of built? Well, I would sort of say resentment, but clearly that's not the right word now if you're not together anymore. What I'm trying to get at is that was there ever sort of any comparison of notes between the pair of you? Obviously, sort of both being in the performing world, the acting world, and there were clearly additional pressures on you being an actress that he didn't necessarily have to go through being an actor.
Oh, I see what you mean.
There we go.
No, I don't think so. Actually, that's a very interesting question.
Thank it. Well, it was supposed to be. It would have been better if it would have been appropriate. But you know,
Yeah, yes, this is true. But I don't think you can get away from a sort of competitiveness sometimes. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
See, Susan, it's really interesting that you weren't prepared because you suddenly were catapulted. There you are. You're 26. For you, it's a job. You're just thinking. I suppose your agent's phone. You audition. You've got the job in this show. You think, well, okay, and suddenly, boom! You are whether you like it or not. You're the pinup girl of the United Kingdom. Every guy's like going crazy for you, and you're not prepared. And I hate to name drop, but I'm going to. And Jacqueline Bisset, when she was in Bullet, and for reasons that I won't bore you with, we had dinner. We've had dinner a couple of times, and of course, I asked her more or less the same question over the dinner table, and she said, "No, I was 21. I just thought it was a film." And I said, "But you suddenly shot to world fame as Steve McQueen's girlfriend in the film." And she said, "No, I was 21. I didn't know what was going on." And we always assume that you do, but of course, you don't.
No. No, I was
thing,
slightly baffled by it, and I don't. In those days, unlike today, where everyone has a PR, a PR machine. I mean, we had to do publicity, by the way. I mean, it's a London weekend television production, and it's in your contract that you have to do publicity. But I don't remember anyone really overseeing or guiding me. So I think there was a lot of stuff I might not have done, looking back, or a lot of photo shoots, I might not have done. But it was another world. And the whole time I had this, sounds silly to say, but this drama school training, I should be doing Shakespeare. I should be in the theatre. That's where I should be. That's what a proper actress does. A proper actress is in the theatre. And of course, I'm very lucky that in the last 15, 20 years, that's what I've been doing. Mainly, my work has been in the theatre.
You still and you still enjoy it? You still have a thirst and a love for it?
I'm addicted. I think. I'm sure.
What is it about theatre that you love so much? I don't go that often to the theatre. One, I know this sounds terrible. They're so uncomfortable and they're so expensive.
And also there are other people there, which seems to bring them out in hives.
I don't like because there's people involved, and also the queue for the loo drives me mad in the interval. And you get to my age, that's a consideration. Now, what is it about theatre that you like so much?
It's the feedback. I mean, it's the it's people think it's the applause. It isn't. There is nothing like making an audience laugh, and I actually like comedy very much. There's nothing like it, and it's the craft of it. If you time a line perfectly, you'll get that laugh. If you mistime it, you won't get the laugh, and then you spend the next 2 weeks thinking, "Where's that bloody laugh gone?" And it's the company. I'm a company person. I like the actors around me, and the joke, the laughter. I mean, laughter in a company of actors is unlike anywhere else. It's a sort of intimacy. I was very worried when all the Me Too thing happened. I'm obviously very. I thought it was incredible that it happened and people were found out, and I thought that was incredible. But I hope that the pendulum hasn't swung so far that an actor can't put his arm around someone else or give them a kiss. In most workplaces you can't do that.
Can't do anything.
All I'm hearing from this is that you seem to be going. You have to be able to be very emotionally strong, I think, to do what you're doing. Do you class yourself as emotionally strong?
No, I'm not. It's a strange combination. Have you seen Helen Mirren's speech accepting her SAG award, her Lifetime Achievement SAG award? It's a wonderful speech. Do have a look at it. And she says it's that combination of insecurity and ego. That describes it.
I think when she accepted the Screen Actors Guild Awards, the SAG Awards, took place in LA about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I think she made a joke about the fact that she didn't like accepting a SAG award because she didn't want anything about herself to be saggy, which got a very good round of applause and lots of mentions in the press because of it was a clever one line.
It was great. And the fact that she dedicated to the tribe, she calls us a tribe of actors, and she mentioned the history of us going back to the Greek theatre. I thought she was very clever. I thought it was wonderful. She's very special.
She's a fantastic actress as well. Now, now that you're here and giving me the green light, I can use the word actress without being criticized. It's very true what you said about how people, the Me Too thing, because I know Chantal, who was also my landlady in Los Angeles, if I may point out, and I won't get into specifics, but it's so extreme over there, what you can and what you can't say and what people would take offense and sue you for.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
Much worse than you think. Much worse.
I mean, I do come from the 70s. I mean, I came into the profession in the 70s, and the kind of experiences that I had, I think people wouldn't believe seriously now, and the acceptance of it. I accepted it. It was the late 60s, the 70s. Everyday chauvinism was a given, actually. It really was. And it's a very difficult thing to say, but I just hope the pendulum doesn't swing too far, that you can kind of get someone the sack from a job because they might make a funny, sexy remark. I mean, actors, particularly in a company of actors in a theatre, maybe not so much in films and telly, although there are some crews I remember that were fun to be around. But that you might make a funny, sexy remark, and then someone goes and reports you to a producer.
The
It's
difference
curious.
between...
Sorry, Chantal.
No, sorry, Phil. I was just to say the difference between the sexes is to be applauded. I mean, that's why we all love each other. You know, we love the different sexes, and it absolutely makes sense. But I was just going to mention that I think there are some places where it's gone too far. And this is really just somebody I had met recently who'd been asked to write a paper. She is in the world of obstetrics and gynecology, and she'd been asked to write a paper on chest feeding. And I thought, actually, the world now has gone completely bonkers. Chest feeding does not exist and never should exist. It really
breast.
Just
Can't
nuts.
say breast.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
She refused to contribute to the paper because she said, actually, this suggests that I approve of the word chest feeding, when she had spent her whole life talking to women about breastfeeding. So she flatly refused to have any part of it. But I did think it was completely
It's bonkers. It is bonkers. It's
but
madness.
this is why I thought it was interesting when you said, Susan, that you believe that you hope the pendulum doesn't swing too far the other way, because I would argue, not necessarily being in the thick of that world, that it has swung too far the other way.
yes, maybe. I mean, I'm glad that the structure is in place for an actress or an actor, for that reason, to go and to say exactly what happens. But I wish we could define more where the line is. When
Definitely.
does someone step over the line? When I'm in a business where everybody's sexy and beautiful, and you know, and we love giving each other hugs and kisses because that's how we work. That's part of the work process, is that bonding. And it'd be very sad to lose. And we love sort of, you know, blue jokes. We love it. And it'd be so sad if that disappears because you can't do it. But where is the line? Where do you draw the line?
Well, the line, Susan, would be in the past common sense.
Yes.
Common sense dictates that. No, Chantal, you're shaking your head, but you're absolutely right. Of course, you're shaking your head in disbelief because the phrase common sense seems to have gone out the window. The mere notion that someone who's an academic can be asked to do chest feeding.
Yeah.
And as Chrissy Richards, who's watching in Spain, says, it's breast, not bloody chest. What a farce. Absolutely right. Coming in from Spain. It's nuts. And
yes, nuts.
It is
women, you should be proud of your breasts. You know, if you've got nice breasts, be proud of them, I think. I mean, we are.
We love you more every moment, Susan.
But the problem is where this line is, the proverbial line. I think that we've got into a state where we allow that line to be subjective, and that's where the problem is. It means something different for everyone else. Whereas before, in a world filled with what could have been deemed common sense, I'm not suggesting that everything was perfect. I know it wasn't, but
it wasn't.
In a world where common sense did prevail, at least that was, by the mere name of it, the common denominator. So therefore, even if you didn't agree with something, you kind of almost just accepted that that's where would be acceptable, where wouldn't. Now it's almost like anyone could be offended for anything they choose.
Yes. I mean...
And you got cancel culture, which of course adds to it.
I mean, you know, I think the line is that most women and men know the difference between a grope and a cuddle, a friendly cuddle. I think that's what most women know, that difference. Can I swear on this program?
You can do whatever you like. You're Susan Penhaligon. Do what the hell you want.
I think most women, if a man comes up and gropes them, would say, fuck off. You know, I mean,
precisely. That's it. That's it.
You know,
and we apologise to our listeners, of course, on Deluxe Radio, who probably aren't as relaxed as swearing, but we don't mind. It's fine. You know, it's an adult show.
But you know, the thing about it is that you can always do that. People have a choice, and where it gets very, very confused, and it's not just confined. The sexual harassment certainly wasn't confined. I was in advertising. And like you, we all, and Chantal was, that's how we met. And Chantal was, you know, in advertising back in the heyday, everyone was hugging and kissing and mucking about, and we won more awards, got more work done, and had better product at the end of it, and we had a damn good time. Every day was like a party. I'll be honest with you, it really was.
I had a very interesting conversation about, actually, on this sort of very similar subject. I had a very interesting conversation with a colleague this week about the notion of International Women's Day, which of course took place within the past week. I have always been led to believe that it is supposed to obviously celebrate the best of women's contribution or female contribution to the world at large. And this colleague of mine said it's the biggest insult. Where do you guys stand on that?
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. I saw a couple of people saying that. I don't understand why it's an insult, really. I mean, I think it's tied to the whole women's liberation movement, and I mean, I was a 1970s women's libber. I bought Spare Rib magazine. I still got a pile of them over there. And we achieved. I've still got them. I mean, we achieved a lot. I mean, rape in marriage, for instance, was legal.
It was legal.
It was legal.
It was not a crime. You couldn't be accused of rape if you were married to the person you were raping.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you why. I tell you where it came from, just to sort of get the reaction to the point that was made. The point that was made to me, and I can understand it. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I can understand it. Was that it's almost as if we're saying on a global level, isn't it wonderful what women can achieve if they put their minds to it? Whereas actually,
bless them.
It's silly because obviously. But I think it's silly to A, see it like that, and B, actually, I would hate to think that anyone does see it like that, because I don't know. Look, I don't feel qualified for obvious reasons to be able to say one way or another if it is an insult, but I kind of see both sides of the argument.
Yes, I think I'm with you. I mean, I suppose the suggestion is it's patronizing.
Yes,
exactly. That's exactly the point.
That's the word, Susan, that you've got to have International Women's Day every day. And I wrote on Women's Radio Station, which is our sister station, which started a year before Men's Radio, with my partner, Howard Jameson. And that was his idea. That on Women's Radio Station, every day is International Women's Day. Every single day. We don't make a big deal out of it because in some ways it's a little insulting and patronizing, but I get it. So both arguments are equally weighty.
But of course, it's interesting. It's interesting the way that International Men's Day, which of course does also exist, is A, made less of a fuss of, and B, no one seems to take in either context. They just sort of say, "Oh, okay, it's International Men's Day."
Yes. I know. I see what you're saying, and I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm fence sitting about this.
It's very difficult. It's very.
What do you think, Chantal? What do you think?
Yes.
I've been listening quietly because I was thinking back to the 70s when I first came up to London to university, and into the 80s, and I hated Guardian women. I hated this idea that we had to be marginalized and given our own special place in the newspaper, as if we were a different species. And actually, I really didn't like it. I thought that was patronizing. I wouldn't listen to Woman's Hour because I just thought, no, you're marginalizing me. You're putting me in this little group of people as if I am a lesser human being. But actually, I think with age that I actually now really appreciate listening to topics that I know are geared more towards my female brain, on Woman's Hour or Women's Radio Station. But then the beauty of it is that here we are on Men's Radio Station, and we have 50% of the audience men and 50% of the audience women.
Yep.
And that's fantastic.
It was, I mean, we were thrilled when we were absolutely thrilled when we found that demographic out. It wasn't what we intended, but it's a delight. This is interesting. See, this is a really interesting, joking aside, insight into the female mind and how people can overcompensate. It's coming in from Spain from Chrissy Richards. I'm just going to read it. It says, my first job, I had to take the post around the factory, and I got wolf whistled all the time and comments about my best asset. Her brain, obviously. I loved it. See, this is what she's saying. I loved it, although I went bright red.
Although I what?
Although I went bright red. So she was embarrassed, but she loved the attention. And it's interesting that it's become, I mean, that's now almost a crime.
No, indeed. And I certainly know. I know from my early days in telly that the popular girls were the ones who were being hit on by the guys all the time. And if you weren't being hit on by the guys, you thought that you weren't one of the popular girls. You thought you were the, baby in the corner. And actually, I loved it when the guys were sort of, making slightly blue comments, and because it made me feel as I was part of the gang and they were interested in me. And I don't know whether that's just vanity or stupidity or whatever it is, but certainly in those days,
but did you
girls
feel
really wanted to be noticed.
But did you feel, this is the big question to you both, did you feel threatened?
Threatened? No, I never felt. I got it a lot, darling. Everybody. The point was when it stopped.
Oh,
I knew I was getting older. I thought, I'm not getting that whistle anymore. Or I wonder, the only thing I wonder about it is, are the remarks a little bit more near the knuckle, near the bone now? I wonder, because, I wonder about stuff, because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all the platforms. And I wonder if there's a kind of nasty chauvinism around now online.
That's because they're cowards, Susan. That's because they're sitting in their mum's spare bedroom, with a picture of Che Guevara on the wall, and they're writing some crap, and no one's ever going to see them. And they probably weigh 27 stone and look like the back end of a bus. So that's why they're rude, because life's dealt them a nasty blow, and they're just sad and lonely.
I really do worry about this group of people called incels. I don't know if you've ever talked about it on the show. But that really is a very worrying take on how a small group of men see women. It's truly frightening. And
what are they? Incel? What's that?
Phil, have you got a better take on how to describe incels than me?
Well, I'm trying to think of sort of putting it in a radio friendly manner, but in a nutshell, it's a member. Okay, it's someone who considers themselves to be highly attractive towards women, but it's born out of total delusion, but self-entitlement with that delusion. Does that make sense? So in other words, they feel that women should automatically be attracted to them. It's a total delusion.
Wow. That's just bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. And they're very angry, and they are sitting in their bedrooms pretty much on their own. Some of the people who have become sort of domestic terrorists have based, it is thought that their mental disorder, if you like, is based in this idea of being an incel, which is that women are there for men, and that is their only purpose, and that there is no equality of sexes, that the control has to come from the man, and the woman has to basically be there for them and nothing else. It's look it up. It's a very peculiar group of people.
It's shocking. It's disturbing is the best way of putting it, really.
Yes. Well, I like this from Mary G. Williams, who says, refers to involuntarily celibate, and Paul Andrews puts it in much more plain language, incels, blokes who can't get laid. So I think
but that's kind of it. That's why I was desperately trying to find a way to describe it with making it more on-air friendly. But that's kind of it in a nutshell, I'm afraid. It's total delusion, but it's actually quite dangerous delusion as well.
Is it based? Do they have some sort of religious belief as well? Is it tied?
It's cult. I don't think it's religion. I think it's cult.
Yeah.
Right.
But there was a speech I was watching coming out of the Middle East, which was saying exactly this by somebody who's meant to be a revered imam, and I just sat listening, and I thought, oh, what is this? It's not the Middle Ages. It's 2022, for God's sake. Let's move on. Susan, here's a slightly difficult question. If you went back to wind back the clock, but with the knowledge that you have now, do you think you might do things differently? In other words, if people were being difficult towards you, and making unwarranted advances and comments, do you think that you would handle it different now with the current head that you have on now in your experience?
Yes, I think I would. I think when you're young, maybe Jacqueline Bissett would say the same thing. When you're in your 20s, I was always slightly embarrassed by it, and I didn't. I was also. I didn't have the confidence I have, the life confidence I have now. You get to my age and you become wise, and you've discovered yourself. I have discovered myself through my ups and downs in life, and in your 20s, you don't have that wiseness.
Well, you don't know who you are yet. I honestly, I know this sounds horribly patronizing, but I think you don't know, and it does come a point that only comes with years that you become comfortable in your own skin. You don't have that much left to prove. Anything you want to prove, you're doing for yourself, not for other people to say, "Oh, aren't you clever?" Because I can give a monkey's, frankly. And finally you know who you are, and and you know what you want, what you want out of life. And you can set your own boundaries. And I think that's the difference. I think you get to a stage where you can say, yeah, I don't mind that. But that you're going to cross the line. You're going to have a problem with me. But otherwise, I think that only comes with age.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I was desperately insecure and I had no idea really that I was attractive. Okay, I mean, I got an idea.
But how could you? I'm sorry, but how could you not?
Well, I did, but let me put it another way. I didn't value it, and I didn't.
Well, that's different.
I didn't value it because I had a jealous mher. When you have you're brought up with a jealous mother, who, who will lower you all the time. I think I can say this because she's passed on, so I can talk about it now. But she used to say, where did you get that mouth from? And I go, what?
God.
Because
did you look at it at the time as a put down? Did you look at it at the time as a put down, or did you just take it as given?
Hurtful.
Horrible.
So when you have a jealous mother, it's made me acutely aware of people I work with who are jealous, by the way. I have an antenna and I back off, right? Because I can't allow that to happen, because that it's something that I was brought up with. Well, when I got to my teenager, when I started being a bit attractive. So out of that, I didn't value it. People would tell me, my gosh, you're so photogenic. I didn't value it. And it's only now, looking back, I think I saw an episode of, I did an early episode of Upstairs, Downstairs. And I looked at myself, oh my God, you were, not only was I good, I couldn't believe it, but I look so great. Now, I didn't know that at the time. And I think the difference is with someone like myself, and there's a lot of young actresses who are insecure, the difference is there were also a lot of actresses who were secure, who had parents who said, you're great. Look at you, you look great. Aren't you good? And I didn't have that. So it was this constant battle to sort of prove myself. And then, of course, I realized that I got to a point where I thought, no, I am okay.
It's interesting though, because I think there's a very fine balance either way, because let's just say from my perspective, my parents have always been incredibly supportive, always encouraged me to do whatever I want, hence working in broadcasting, because I think most other parents probably just say, can't you get a proper job? But the point is that my parents have always backed me and have always been biggest fans and never criticized me. But with that, I don't think that prepares you for the real world. Because, of course, there are people out there who are not going to be the biggest fan. Who
not so nice.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think that sets you up for life. I hate to say it. Unfortunately, on the contrary, it's sort of is kind of the reverse. It wraps you in this false sense of cotton wool almost. And then it's a bit of a nasty shock when you realize, oh, hang on, the world isn't so nice.
Not everyone thinks I'm great.
That's interesting. That's very interesting, actually, that you say that. I think you're right. I think it's a balance. You're absolutely right. I think in my case, it was the jealousy of how I looked, and also
I've never had that problem. So,
oh, Phil,
that's not true. You decided to shave your head. The hell for?
It's personality counts. Personality.
Yeah,
Exactly.
only if he had one. If he had, well, that's another thing. Well, that's Christmas sorted out for you. Susan and I will go back to Harrods, obviously, and go to the personality department. It's really interesting you say this, Susan. Because Elizabeth Green, who's normally in Manhattan in New York, and she's popped over to London, it would appear, and her mother was a nightmare, quite frankly, and the stories are just quite extraordinary. And my father, the greatest praise he would ever give me, didn't matter what I did, was, not bad. That was it. That was the phrase. Not bad. Did you see that thing? Yeah, not bad. That was it. So that was my bar. That's where the bar was set. Yeah, not bad. So I learned to live with that. That's fine. I learned to live
the
with
flip
it.
side of that is the sort of overly gushing American style, which is to tell your children, that's great, that's great, that's great all the time, when all they've done is, eaten their peas or...
it's pathetic.
No, Chantal, it's worse. It's when you've got over-gushing American parents who video their children eating peas and then show you as if you're supposed to give a damn.
Yes.
But it is a balance, because it's a balance, because if you don't support your kids and are encouraging and enthusiastic and supportive, then I think you're not much of a parent. But you got to prepare them for as Phil found out, I found out, everybody does, not everybody there is your fan club. And it's a rough world, it's a hard world. We've all chosen professions that are particularly difficult, certainly in broadcasting. I hate to use the phrase, but I will, that it's dead man's shoes. There's only so many shows. Yeah. That's it. You can't put extra hours in the day. There are only 24 hours in the day. And sometimes you have to wait for somebody to go. It's a tough, and acting, of course, when you've got thousands of people going for one role is very tough. How did you learn to cope? Because this is all to do with mental health, which is our main thrust here, with the notion of rejection.
I knew you were going to use that word.
Well, it's a very common theme, isn't it? Both in life and particularly in your profession.
It's tough. It really is. I mean, I remember meeting. Who did I meet? Oh God, Susan George got the part, by the way. The one shot down in Cornwall.
Oh, the Straw Dogs.
Yes.
Straw Dogs. Sam
Peckinpah.
Straw Dogs.
Sam Peckinpah.
Sam Peckinpah with Dustin Hoffman.
That's right. And I met Peckinpah because I used to go up for all these films during my early years, and I didn't get it. And I remember I was on the bus and I cried. I did. Yeah. I cried. I don't think rejection actually gets any easier as you get older. I don't think you ever get over it. I'm sorry to have to say this, if anyone's an actor watching or a young actor watching, I think you just give yourself the time. It's 48 hours and then it's gone. It's 48 hours.
You see, the trick with rejection in business, and let's just lump it into business. I'm not talking about romantic rejection. That's totally different. That it's not personal. It's not personal. It sounds like The Godfather, but it is business. It's not that I don't like Susan Penhaligon, or it's just that I don't think she's quite right for the role, blah, blah, blah. But it's very hard not to make it personal, isn't it?
Yes, you have to separate that out. That's why I say it, if the face fits. You have to separate it out. You have to try and reach a point where you say, well, it's not personal. There's a wonderful little video by, I'm going to forget his name now, the Breaking Bad actor. What's he called?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston was asked at some award show, what advice would you give to a young actor starting out? And he said, when you go for an audition, because I mean, these days, you know, you have to perform in a room. You know, you can't go in and just read like you used to when I started. You actually have to perform. And there are Zoom auditions now, and you have to self-tape. You have to learn it and self-tape now. But he said, when you go into that room, you are in there to show what you can do. You're not in there to try and get the job. You are in there to say, this is me, I'm an actor, this is my interpretation of the part, I'm giving my best interpretation for you. And he said, and then you walk away. You leave it in the room, because it's not up to you to worry whether they want you. I thought it was great advice, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Very difficult to do, because I've tried this. Because there's always that personal, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe if I'd done it, my hair had been different, or, you know, it's there. It's the same with reviews. You know, Frances Barber did a wonderful tweet, actually. She said, oh, get over it. Everyone's had bad reviews. No. Everyone's been criticized. Everyone's had bad reviews, you know. I've had terrible reviews. And you have to get over it, because otherwise, do you know, maybe that's what separates out the people in the business, and you're in the same sort of business, separates us out. It's the people who can get over that, you know?
Yes.
And the people who can stand being poor for a while when you're out of work, and people who can take that rejection and take that bad review and say, right, onwards.
I don't know how you do it, actually.
I agree with Chantal.
I think it's incredibly tough being out there and putting yourself forward every day as if you have to be validated in some way publicly all the time. I mean, my mother never wanted me to go on the stage, because I used to sort of dabble with this idea that I was going to be an actress when I was a teenage girl, and she absolutely didn't want it at all. But she always used to say, we're not here to make ourselves feel fabulous. We're here to make other people feel fabulous. And actually, that's what you're on the planet for.
What a line.
So don't get so immersed in your own little world. Go out and do something brilliant for other people. So I don't know whether that helps or not. It may help some people at home think differently about how they're feeling, but making
I tell you what, I don't know. This is where I've always had a major problem with, and it's a bit rich coming from me, because I guess sort of in the line of work where we all are involved in, really, there's an element of this. But it's the whole notion of being an object or a possession, you know, belonging to either a production company, belonging to a station, belonging to a manager, belonging to somebody else, and we are basically performing monkeys, you know. And it's that it just
seals, yes.
But no, but it is true. But it is true. But there is something about that to me doesn't sit very well. Which is really sort of hypocritical, because obviously I do a job that I love, but there is something uncomfortable about it. It's the notion of sort of ultimately being the product.
Yes, it's very, very difficult to describe what it is that makes you keep going or makes you want to do the job. I personally believe actors are born. I don't think it's you can't teach charisma for a start. So, you know, I mean, there's certain actors you go to see in the theatre, you can't take your eyes off them, and you think, why am I watching that?
What is that? What is that indefinable thing?
But why do you think that is, Susan?
Well, Laurence Olivier in his book says it's sex appeal. He said,
fascinating.
He said that's what makes charisma. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. And sex appeal doesn't mean that you have to be beautiful, by the way. You know, that's nothing to do with it. I mean, I've met many people who aren't beautiful, but they're very sexy, you know. It's something else. It's an energy. But the addictive part of being an actor is that I believe it's a creative work for a start. It's creative. You know, you're interpreting a writer's work, whether it's on film, telly, or theatre. You're an interpreter, and you aren't yourself. You know, you using Arthur Miller. There's a wonderful Arthur Miller quote. I was trying to find it for you because he describes it perfectly. He said, the wonderful thing about the theatre is that the actor knows on any given matinee in some dusty theatre, he has encapsulated all his life experiences, all his experiences and emotion in becoming someone else. And he knows that that will live down through the centuries. And it's the best description I can think of being an actor, is that you're not going onto a stage or in front of a camera being you. No. You're not being you. I mean,
is it quite useful? You know, if, say, for example, if you're having a really bad day, is it quite useful to be able to be someone else?
It's great. That's great. and also, if you're having a bad day and you're on the theatre, the audience laughs. You know.
Yeah.
You
can have a terrible day and you can go in, or your fellow actors can make you laugh, you know. Yes, no, I didn't. Sorry, I just saw that.
Oh, yes, that was my mother chiming in on the conversation. She was asking, for those who are listening to this rather than watching, she asked whether or not if Susan stayed in contact with the late great Frank Finlay. So.
And Dave Sleet says this: no one gets a medal for turning up in life, and this is the great. But this is so true. Dave Sleet is very high up in the psychotherapy community. We've reduced the generational capacity to accept rejection. It's made life harder for many, setting people up to fail. The fact of the matter is, you know, the Brave New World that came in the 90s, everyone's a winner. If you take part in a race, even if you come stone last, you're going to get a medal, is so bad for people in later life.
I think so.
It's a nonsense. It's nasty, but then life can be quite nasty, and you have to be able to be slightly tougher, because otherwise it will steamroller you. I have a question for you, Susan.
Thank goodness, that'd be a very boring interview without question, wouldn't it?
We're going to have to go to the sale at Harrods for the personality department, by the way, because it's going to be
not necessarily the same department that Susan was in those years ago.
We shall see. I don't know. I'll take an open brief on that. I did Panto. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. The only acting I ever did, I did Panto for 9 years, and you've already touched on this, Susan. That sometimes you do the gag, and the place goes woof, and 2,000 people, ha ha ha, everyone's coming out, and you do the same gag, and you think exactly the same way. Nothing. Like you've just read a telephone directory. And my family grew up with the Suchets. And David Suchet, probably one of my favorite actors since he was working at Moss Bros. That's how far back we go. And I asked him this, and I'll give you his answer. Then I'd love your answer. He said to me, Russ, what are the chances of 1,000 or 2,000 people all turning up to a theatre and all being in a bad mood? He said the chances of that are ridiculously low. It's got to be the performer. And I'm not sure that, as much as I would never argue with the genius that is Sir David Suchet, I'm not sure it's true. What do you think?
No, he's right.
He is right.
He's absolutely right. It's to do with craft and technique. I mean, did you say you've done Panto? You've done Panto.
I did 9 years.
Well, in that case, I'm very bad at it, by the way.
I wouldn't do it again. I had no desire to ever do it.
Terrible. But you know how gags go. You know that the feed line has to be heard, right?
Yep.
To say the punchline. Now that's technique. That's craft. Yep. So if the feed line isn't right, you're not going to get that gag. I mean, I was in Tom Stoppard's The Real Thing for 9 months. I took over from Felicity Kendall. I mean, those were the days when shows were, actually it was the mid-80s, and it ran for 9 months. Can you believe it?
Fantastic.
God, I nearly went off my head in 9 months. But and I had a laugh line, which about the third month I lost. And I couldn't work out. I couldn't work out why it would gone. And I tried everything. And then I just moved. One night, I just moved a little bit more center stage, where I like to be, of course. But I just moved. a little more center stage, and I got that laugh back. So that's technique.
Wow.
You know,
Amazing.
I mean, really, I needed a director to come in and say, sorry, but you're not quite in the light. Something like that.
I think you're quite right. Let's put this to the test, shall we? There you go. That's better. Right,
That's your dream, is it? That's your dream show. That is it. Paul Andrews says an audience is a live organism. That's absolutely right. The feeling in the room can change from a single breath on stage being different.
Yeah,
But
the question is whose breath. But anyway.
But Susan, don't you think they need, and Chantal, you've seen this, you've done so many shows, the audience needs that permission to either laugh or cry. They somehow need that permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're over-analysing. This is hurting my head. Really?
No,
but actually,
true.
that's where a warm-up artist is absolutely critical, because a warm-up artist does lots of different things, but warming up the audience is vital, because it gives them liberty to have fun, to be vocal, to applaud, to understand what's going on, and be part of the whole performance. For me, going to the theatre, it's a two-way thing. Yes, you're looking at a performance, but you're part of something that's going on. So the warm-up person really sets everything, sets the bar for the whole performance, I think, in a television studio.
And it's
I
a hard
don't do
job.
the same thing in a theatre.
No,
It's a very hard job.
It's
a hard job.
Yeah.
Jeff Stevenson, oddly enough, I did do bands with. He's one of the best warm-up guy. He was just the classic warm-up guy. The whole of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire had the same. Every single show had the same warm-up guy. It's a tough job, because you're going into a stone cold audience. They don't want to see you, and you've got to get them, as it says, warmed up. It's a heck of a thing.
Yeah. It's true, because all those sitcoms that were televised, you know, they all had warm-up. On A Fine Romance, we had a warm-up guy. We were, on the beginning of A Fine Romance, we were all very nervous, because none of us had done sitcom in the sense of in front of a live audience. None of us had done that before. And that, again, is a very specific thing, you know.
Did you do that in real time, Susan? Or did you stop and start like the Americans?
It was stop and start and recorded. But, you know, the audiences love things to go wrong. So, you know.
Of course we do.
They laugh themselves.
Hello.
So sometimes the laugh, if they were going again on something, say Michael Williams, you know, would have to throw his jacket onto a hook, and he kept missing it, and the audience, you know, and then we'd go again, and the laughter was way over the top. So the floor manager had to go out and say, "Can you bring the laughter down a bit?" The actual gag didn't deserve that laughter. You can sometimes hear it on shows, but I mean, now they don't. Do they have live audience on?
Yeah,
some of them.
Chantal would know.
Mrs. Brown's Boys, for example.
Really?
No, live audiences are definitely still the thing. Yeah, I went to a production of an ITV sitcom just before lockdown, and up in North London somewhere. I can't quite remember where, but probably I think there are about 300 in the audience, and vital for the actors to have that interaction and that feedback. Because then they're enjoying it more too.
Yeah,
true. Susan, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, we are not
really
worthy.
It's been great. It's been so lovely, so lovely. Thank you so much for coming on. I know everyone's loved it. I was looking at all the numbers, and the numbers are going through the roof. So thank you so much. We wish you well. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. And you are welcome anytime you have anything to say, get off your chest, rant, rave, or just plug. You know where to come.
Okay, thank you. I've really, really enjoyed meeting you all. It's been great.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Likewise.
Bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
How fantastic.
So many great stories.
Oh my goodness me! And I know you've done so much blooming research for all the TV shows.
No, but
Can I just say, speaking of research, bloody Wikipedia, fancy not knowing that she'd separated from Duncan Preston.
Well, there you go. There you go. Wikipedia. It's almost like it's not all true, isn't it? It's a real thing.
Anyway,
thank you, Penny Horner. That is very nice. That is our co-director as well on Women's. Bless her. Thank you. Bye, Fab. I'm glad she enjoyed it. It's so nice.
Thank you, Chantal.
Yes,
no,
well.
not at all. We'll catch up on some telly next week, and don't forget the BAFTAs on Sunday night.
Ooh, will you be there?
Voting.
Are you going to be involved in all that?
Done my
in
voting
2 seconds.
Oh, all right.
There you go. Have yourself a great weekend, one and all. We'll see you Monday at midday. Thank you so much for your comments.